Hello, everybody. We're live, or so it says on my screen. I don't know how many. I'm hoping that for those of you who still have electricity and where there's the terrible snowstorms and everything, I hope that's all going well. We did get this show is going to be about dowsing, and I've done shows on dowsing before, but I had people come up with questions about it, and I went, "Oh, must be time to talk about that again." And some of it's about the care and feeding of your dowsing materials. I'm going to go over a whole lot of different things about the kinds of materials dowsing rods can be made from. They're over here on my table, which is why I'm looking over at my table. I'm going to talk about notes for energetic practices. And one of the things that drove me to want to do a show on dowsing, other than questions I've been getting, is Tim Walter, who has been on my channel. He's a house healer, and he just finished his book. It's now available. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. He and I are talking about getting him to come on the show, but with him, it's a time thing. He's in England, and we're here, and he's real busy promoting his book and doing his things. And his book is called What Now? And what he talks about is understanding how dowsing is a real way to energetically pull in the information about quantum fields. Now, everybody's eyes have just crossed, and they know I'm going to say that nasty word physics, which they don't want to pay attention to. But this is physics, not just little lines and angles and things on a piece of paper. This is physics we're feeling around ourselves all the time. And that's what his What Next book is about. He had a graphic in a show he did that was like showing quantum energy sort of rolling around you and you disappearing and becoming like a stick figure in the in the quantum field and picking out the energy you wanted. And then he went on to talk about, and it's something I've tried to talk to people about, is as you begin to open yourselves up, and dowsing's just as good as anything else, whether it's cards, dowsing, crystals, numbers, anything that people choose, astrology, however people choose to start to open themselves up into the universe. These are notes from Penny Pierce and her book on frequencies. And the spirit merges within the body and the emotions and the mind, and we begin to feel that. Then frequencies in your life increase. The more you feel it more often, you'll feel more of what you're doing more often. Then personal and collective unconscious mind begins to empty. In other words, that's when people say I lose time. The last week or so, I lost a lot of time. I was like, it's 3:00 already, because I was immersing myself in energies and understanding and taking time to stop and do some things. And sometimes really I kind of look around and I go, well, what did I do? But I realize I've come to understand something else without having to physically read the book and write out the notes for the class. When you become entrenched, when you become like that, where your unconscious and conscious minds begin to empty into each other, then you'll go into a period called the the retrench, refortify, resist, and resuppress. And we'll do that, and we'll go, no, that can't happen. That's when we come up with all the ego excuses as to why what we know we're living through and we know what we're feeling, we don't feel like it's there. Okay? And then old structures begin to break down and dissolve. One of the things that happens when you're in that phase is there's no going back. What you think, oh, well, I can go back to here, and it's not there. What you thought was there isn't there. And the only place to go is forward. And that really, in this time, is really true. In a 1 year, you're going forward, because the end of last year, when we went in from a 9-year into a 1 year, it's like a big fat door closes. And the other part is you can kind of keep things in there, keep the door open if there's stuff you actively have sought to not let go of. But it really is time to let stuff go. And then you stop, you let go, and you relax. And I've been talking to some people and they're going, I feel so weird because they're back to being closer to who they truly are and who, when they sign the contract to come in and be part of the world, you're beginning to pull all the pieces together to make that whole. And at that point, it's like we're going through right now. We're re-emerging into the world like a phoenix. And the phoenix just bursts out, if you've read that myth, and opens its feathers, and it's brilliant. And blind people are blinded by the light of that phoenix, and because they weren't open enough to understand how important that light was. And then your relationships with your family and other group experiences become revolutionized. Um, you say, oh well, I didn't do the Thanksgiving dinner, and then Christmas was a nightmare because my family all went crazy, because you were going to not put yourself out when it's something you had not enjoyed doing for a while, because you were taking care of yourself. Your family should stand and applaud that. A lot of times they don't. And then you just have to realize, I need to understand the revolutionary energy that's around me and live with it. And then the ninth step in this book of frequencies, when she's talking about this, is enlightenment is grounded in every bit of matter. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you a little bit about today. Dowsing is a very personal, for a lot of people, it's the first time they touch it, they feel like, that's when you go through this, is it me or is it Memorex? Am I really doing these things? And I'm going to talk about a couple simple ways I have to for people to work with dowsing. And I got into dowsing when I dealt with a lot of earth energies. Dr. Gail and I tomorrow are doing a show on elementals, and it's going to be a fun show. We're going to be talking about the personalities they have, how they appear to us, how they appear to us all differently, and what they've told me over the last few years about recognizing and working with them. And she met one yesterday, and she said, well, he looked kind of like an elf, or kind of a not so grizzled up and certainly not dressed in green critter, but he was all dressed in brown. Well, she met a brownie, and brownies are kind of elves, and they deal. Brown should be a big clue to any of you who study earth energies. It means he's very earthbound. And when we were talking about it, I was laughing, and I said, did he look like one of the Keebler elves? And she said, yeah, that's exactly what he looked like. Well, she met one of the Keebler brownies, not one of the Keebler elves. But let's see where to start. Okay, how can you learn? Okay, let's go to different kinds of dowsing uh, things that are there for you to look at, and different methods of doing it. There's one I'm going to show you array of. I've got an array of. Where'd my camera go? Well, it was there. I don't know where it went, so I don't have my table camera. Okay, that's going to make this a little bit longer, but not much. I'm coming back, I promise. There we are. Let me see if this thing's on at all. Yeah, it's on. I don't know why it's not projecting, but I have a whole assortment of dowsing rods, dowsing materials. This is a pendulum, which all of y'all know. Pendulum, it swings. People ask me, let's see if this will work. I'm going to try one more time with this camera. My microphone off too. Okay, now. There I am. And now I'm in the big zoom. I'm in the big thing, I think. Okay. It's recording and I can't see your comments now. Let me see if I can get myself back shrunk down. There we are. Now I'm back to where I thought I'd be. I don't understand. I checked it out this morning. It worked. It's just not going to behave. So you're going to have to look real hard, and they're going to be wavy and pink. This is a pendulum, and you set it up with, and you ask it 3 questions. And if you've not seen this, this is our dowsing chart. That this is available on my website. Um, this is where same place you can order readings. Um, in resources, there's this dowsing chart, and it's got yes and no marked, and the way everybody does it a little differently, so you have to test it out. Start with the pendulum being dead center in the middle, even, and then ask it if it wants to work with you today. The first question is, do I have permission to douse? And it'll start to move and let you know yes you can. And am I aligned with my higher self? And that's the important part. That's the thing that makes people afraid. Well, am I going to bring in other energies with this? Well, theoretically, yeah, you're going to bring in other energies. You're going to bring in the energies you've asked and you've given permission to come into your life. And then the third question is, am I protected? And that's the one that's most important to me, because when I went back to the shop I used to read in, and I hadn't been there through COVID, I set up my stuff to do some dowsing while I was there. And I asked those 3 questions. The first 2 came out. Do I have permission to douse? It went yes. It went back and forth in front of me. And then I asked, am I aligned with my higher self? And he said, oh yeah, sure. And then it goes, am I fully protected enough? And I put it up to swing it, and it ripped out of my hand and flew an aisle away. And I realized I hadn't been in the store in a long time, and it's an antique vintage store. And if you ever buy anything at a vintage store, take it home and cleanse it, because that's going to help you. And somebody brought something in, so I went around with I used dragon's blood in a misting bottle. You can get dragon's blood oil, put a few drops in a misting bottle, spray it around you. It's great protection. You can get white sage. You can get other things. Some people can't tolerate smoke. I really shouldn't have smoking incense around me. My doctors claim it makes my lungs get worse. But anyway, just saying. So it was kind of an interesting experience to go through, to have it ripped out of my hand. Then when I went back and said, am I protected? It swung very evenly and very vigorously. Now, what means a yes and what means a no? Well, if you use this chart, it's marked. If it swings up to the yes, it's the yes. If it swings to your left, it's no. I'm sorry, I'm not good on left and right either. Anyway, and so that's how you can kind of tell. And then on this chart, if you go to my resources folder, and you'll find a thing called Letter to Robin, and it's a PDF that I was given permission by the Walt Woods Foundation. He was a dowser from a long time ago, and he talks about every kind of dowsing you can do. We adapted this chart, Danny and I adapted this chart 4 years ago when we found him, into ours. It looks a lot like my garden, doesn't it? Yes, it does, because it is. And on this, you can say, what's my possibility of getting a job? And I'll start swinging a circle, and it'll go, and it goes from 10 to 100%. So you can see the percentage of, if you have a question that you want to have a percentage answer on. Um, there are just 100 different ways to play with this. I would suggest you go get that and play with it. Now, protecting yourself, you've asked those prayers before you go in. If you've started your day off with protection, you've already taken care of a lot of the fact that there's a lot of energy flowing around us right now. And I think we all feel it. And if we don't do the things we need to do to protect us, they can snatch into your body and do things. Okay. Other kinds of pendulums. This one was fabricated for me. If you can see it, it's a lot of small tumbled crystals. It's every color of the chakras in that. That was given to me over 45 years ago. I also have this pendulum, and I'll tell you why I like it. It's on what they call a paperclip chain. If you look at it, it's a whole string of little teeny tiny, it looks like paper clips. This one just happens to have a silver star on the bottom. It's got, I can use either the silver star if that's what I want to swing, or I can swing the wire wrapped quartz crystal. Perfectly good, works fine. There are also some commercially made ones like this. This is very heavy. It's made with clear quartz in the middle and it has metal on the top and the bottom. This came to me off Amazon as a 3 pendulum set. There was another pendulum that looked like a lot like this one, but it was wood, which is very light. And if you're interested in working with wood or you're asking questions, you just feel like, I want to try something different, you could try that. Or this one also had a solid metal pendulum in the bag. And the reason I like that one is if I go outside, some of these are light. The wind, at least the wind in Texas, and I'm sure the wind up where some of you are right now, would blow it. But the metal one tends to stay straighter because it's heavier. And then I have this, and this is black obsidian. And it has a little black bead at the top. That's just decorative. I've never read it except to have the point down. That one's there. And then I have one that someone gave me as a pendant, and I've used it as a pendulum. It's very, very light. It's a shell. It's got some shells in it. It was made for me on the coast of Florida. It's a beautiful little crystal. I'll attach that to, I'll replace this end with that. I'll change the ends on these. And then I have one that was, I think, it's a special crystal. It's very light, and it's a Merkaba. It's the highest form of sacred geometry form. So it's kind of like whatever you pick up on and feel safe. Someone did ask about how she's protecting her, and I think it's her pendulums. Okay. What's the best way to store a pendulum? Right now I have them on my board, which I made and I place them on a selenite slab. Either of those are good, but you remember when you set them down to say, we're done dowsing. Because whether you're holding that little thing on a chain or it's not there, you've been calling energy in. And it's one of those things that they say Ouija board people don't do. They don't stop the energy from coming through the Ouija board. And you have a very clear system. You know when you're setting it down, what the purpose is, and your intentions are very plain. So that should work just fine. And then my program for pendulum and dowsing rods is to provide me with honest and true answers from my guides and higher self. I ask as if I'm protected permission. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. But this is the end. Is there anything else that needs to be done? No, we just went over all that. You got yourself covered, girl. And thank you, say Cindy, when you watch it later today. I realize 1 in the afternoon is not the ideal time for most people, but I've moved them around Doesn't seem to matter. I know nothing about any of this. I'm just curious. And she says that I seem likable. Well, thank you. I like to think I'm likable. And then we got, she stored her pendulums. And Susan Belvin thinks we're pretty interesting. Thank you, Susan. So, the other way you can douse is the one a lot of people see and they're like, what are those? These are actually copper wires that are bent, and you put them out in front of you. I'm going to try to go straight. And get back. I'll ask the question. I ask the question in my head, what is yes? Which way is yes? Now I'm going to set them out again. Which way is no? This one's having a hard time moving because my hand's in the way. Wait, we're going to try the no one again because my hand got in the way. Which way is no? Which way is no? It's not doing much, but it's moving out. And you can also use dowsing rods. And this is a way you can use it if you think you just think, is there some energy in my house? You put the dowsing rods in your hand, you get them still, and you'll say, point me in the direction of the negative energy. And the clearest point I got is into my bedroom. And I think that's true because something's waking me up with backaches at night. And I'm going to do a number on my room today. I'm going to go in and spritz it and spray it out. But you can do this for yes and no's. And I was showing these to a client of mine. We were sitting on a wine bar porch. Was Andre there? Yes, Andre was there when we did this. I go back up. And I said to him, he asked a question. And what happened was this one went, it just swung around and around. The other one stick still. He goes, is that how it's supposed to work? Well, it's how it worked for Andre's question. And his question was one that was confusing him. So one hand was saying, I'm getting nothing. And the other one was going whack. It was going crazy. It was circling around and around. These are fun because you can physically feel the energy. But you are going to physically feel the energy. And I always strongly sort of support people and when they're beginning to use dowsing rods, the copper dowsing rods, to do it with someone else around you, so you can both see it and you both go ooh and ah over it, and you have some confirmation of what you're seeing. The other thing is you can do the same thing with a bent stick. Dowsing, the way I first heard about dowsing was as a child. They would go find water. They'd walk along, and when the stick went down, that's where the water was. And there's a lot of people who do that kind of dowsing. Rory Duff, if you've never heard me speak of him, but he's very, very big in earth energies, ley lines, and the 7 earth chakras. And he got into all that. He got into it all when he was in South Africa. And they would, use all their instruments and look at the rocks and do the kind of stuff. I can show you one. I actually have one. This is one of the first crystals I ever got. It was given to me by a friend. And it's called green earth. And in South Africa, and this actually came from Rhodesia when Rhodesia was still Rhodesia. And there was a diamond mine under it, and they could tell because of what was in the layer of this green earth. Well, that's what they'd go around. They'd go look around certain crystal constructions and certain things to decide how to find diamonds. Somewhere, the people native to the area would go around with dowsing rods. And Rory Duff got fascinated when the dowsing rods were doing better than the scientific instruments. So let me see what else. What else you can do with dowsing rods? I think if any of you saw it, a couple weeks ago, I put this together. It was a friend of mine asked me she sent me the layout map of her building, and all this is going in the mail today. Ended up writing her little booklet about the north, south, east, west, and the entry. And as you can see, there's crystals grounding to the house, and it's to draw in positive energies. And each page in the booklet has the crystal. It's a lot like a crystal grid for a person, but it's for a house. And it lists all the crystals. Each page has its own list of crystals, and then what they're good for. When I'm writing up the instructions right now for her on how to do this, this is taking forever because I've never done this before. So I had to kind of go back, talk to my friend Tim in England, see what he had to say about it. But I'm going to send her an instruction sheet on how to use regular. She has a pair of dowsing rods. How to use regular dowsing rods to figure out the best placement for the bags of crystals or boxes or however she puts them in the ground. They're in bags right now. She wants to put them in a box because she thinks it's safer. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Let me see. We are in a reset, and we are in a old patterns are dissolving, and our egos are being taken away, and we're being able to move into space. Okay, and yep, someone used a stainless steel pendulum. They work. They work. The first pendulum I ever swung was in a dorm room in 1968, 67 at SMU, and we stuck a pin in the pencil lead in the top of the pencil lead and tied a string to it and did it over everybody's hands. And we were checking on their wrists to see whether they were going to have boys and girls. And mine said I'd have 3 children. It said I would give birth to 2 boys and a girl. Life has a way of changing that. I have 2 girls now and a boy. Let's see. Okay, somebody wants to know, Mimi Nee wants to know about the numbers on the dowsing chart. The numbers go to 400. You can ask numerical questions on this. You can ask, and when Danny and I first started, we were trying to find a way to be able to dowse to see what was taking energy from us. So we'd do the permission, and we'd go, yeah, to do it. And then we'd say, what? And there's a chart called a happiness chart, and it goes from 0 to 1,000. And we used to always tell people just to add a 0 on the edge of this. So if you swing around, you say, okay, where's my vibration? You can see your vibration will be up at 900. And one time, as a joke, Danny decided, well, not a joke, he'd done his read where he felt like he was, and he wrote it down. He went down and saw some news. News was not as crazy as it is now, but it was crazy enough. Came back upstairs, and he had that news on his mind. He said, I wonder where my personal in-body vibration was. It had dropped 40 points from it had dropped from like 900 to 500. I mean, it was a big drop. And he said that's when he began to realize there's a lot about walking away from news that you know is insane. Don't sit there in your own mind and try to have it make sense. It doesn't. And let's see. And Nancy Castro uses her pendulum all the time. I need to talk to you, Nancy Cast. But pendulums are very lovely. They're lightweight. You can carry with them anywhere. Someone's first pendulum was a sewing needle. That can be the truth too. Now, how do people use pendulums when they're going to do a house cleansing? Because Tim uses his all the time. And what he starts out with is the floor plan of the house, and then he runs his pendulum across it, and he knows, because he's worked with it enough, which swing means work here and which ones means everything fine. Often they'll go through a house and they won't find anything's out of alignment. Sometimes they'll find out one room needs to be worked a little bit. And it's kind of funny because he said one time he was doing this woman's house and he got to this one room and it was just, the pendulum just went nuts and he couldn't figure out what was wrong. Well, it was her junk room. It was the one room in her house that wasn't orderly and all defined, and junk was just thrown in there. And that's a function of that you learn about in feng shui as well. Um, Energy does not like things being disorderly. Energy likes to know that things are laid out so that the energy can move smoothly. So you can do that. A decluttering will help a whole lot with making energy move better around you, which apparently is a lesson I haven't learned in my bedroom yet, but I'm working on it. And the other thing I'm going to show you is, okay, let's see, go to beginners. Okay, this I'm going to show you. This is Kim's new book about energy is called What Now? It's available for like $9.99 on Kindle. And then if you go to Tim's website, and I'm running it by very slowly, it's called nightrose.com, Tim Walter. If you go into there, you can sign up and buy a book directly from him, and he'll autograph it for you. And if you tell him where you learned about it, he will, oh dear. Trying to make that run longer. Um, uh, he'll be glad to sign it for you. He's absolutely delightful. And you get into house clearing, then you get into people. Well, I've heard feng shui says. And there's a lot of stuff about feng shui. I could not begin to get into it. I don't know it well enough to do all that much with it. If you're a feng shui person, send me an email, because I would love to get a real good feng shui person on psychic profiles. I think it's so important, and I think can make such a difference to people on what it does and how your life works and how your space feels. Um, but I'm going to show you one feng shui things. This is not for today. I'm going to make Tim go away. We're going to build a mountain of gold. I do this once a year, and I figure if I give you a week's warning, you have time. These are stones. These are river stones, and they're not big stones. That's one of the smaller ones. But I just go to the craft store. They sell stones there you can buy, or maybe you just have them if you live in a place where they're just outside by your sidewalk. Go pick up 7 stones. And next week on Tuesday, I'm going to be teaching you how to create a mountain of gold, where you stack them up right beside your doorway. I explain all the ins and outs of doing that. And then I give you a little prayer meditation to set it off. And it brings prosperity to your door. It's what it's there for. And it's real simple to do. It's just trying to imitate gold nuggets, but that's when we see gold nuggets, we tend to think we're seeing money and stuff. So that's what it's like. And this, for those of you who want to, that's an inch. It's not. It's an inch from one mark to the other. So that's, if you put it on its longest side, it's probably an inch and a half, and then it's an inch. So they don't need to be huge, and you don't want them to be huge. Okay, somebody wants to ask. I got to remove you. Somebody wants to ask, how can working with feng shui help you? Well, feng shui gives you a path to put in the house, and it gives you ideas on what to keep open and what to, what doors to keep closed. One of the things that Feng Shui says is since water is energy and water carries things away, if you leave your toilet seat up, if you don't close it, all of the good fortune you're building in your house will flush down the toilet, literally. I mean, energetically, that's what they're saying. There's a, I've done a whole show on Feng Shui. Like I said, I'm not great with it. If you're really interested, um, um, and yeah, this lady says, sh- uh, show. Can't wait for the Mountain of Gold. She'll be ready this time. I sort of sprung it on people before figuring sort of an arts and crafts class and they'd follow it and they'd do it. And everybody said, you should have told us, you should have told us. So this is how we're going to talk about doing that. Um, and for my pendulum says that it is energy like Nancy's talking about. In other words, it's all around you. And you are letting, when you choose to use a pendulum, if you follow the precepts and ask for the permissions, you should not have any problems. And one of the things I get from people is they think ugly badass energy is going to walk in on them. I think you're as likely to find ugly badass energy at your local grocery store walking up and down the aisles. I actually was in a grocery store today. That must be about the sixth time since 2020 that I've gone to a grocery store. I find their deliveries work just fine, and I'm happy with that. Also, I buy less when I have groceries delivered, but I did actually go in because I had to go pick up my uh, the only one and only medication I take came due today. I had to go pick it up, and uh, just just going from the door to the pharmacy, which the only thing I really go by there is I go by the Starbucks that's in the place, and there's some fresh fruit stands. But for the most part, I have not been any further in a grocery store than that since 2020. Maybe I'll find new things are out there, but I don't think so. Um, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to spend money I don't have. My pendulum would like it's your pendulum is telling you energy is like it is. Energy is now pushing on us stronger, and sometimes I think the strength with which it's pushing in on people is what's scaring them. But they shouldn't be. You shouldn't be afraid at all. And if you've been interested in connecting with the elementals, that's a show Dr. Gail and I are going to do tomorrow. And you can combine all these things together. You can pull out your favorite pendulum and say, is doing around a spirit with me. It's moving yes out to yes. It's moving in the way that says to me yes. Um, and there's other people saying they're the same way I am about grocery stores. You spend more, you see all that stuff, you forgot that there even was. Um, so I'm going to go. I'm fighting a bit of a cold. I went to my chiropractor and got adjusted today, so my energy ought to be straight. I'm really sorry about the second camera not working. Give it one more shot. Computer using it, so what can I say? And I had cleaned off my desk and made pretty. I was going to show you a couple other things. There are some things I'm going to tell you. There's stuff floating around in the universe that you can pick up. That's free. You can go to my website and get stuff uh, out of my my file for resources. It'll give you some resources. It'll give you the pendulum booklet, which I cannot tell you how good that booklet is. It's really, really good. Also, don't forget if you're really get into dowsing and say, how many different ways can I use the dowsing? rods. I just want short, quick answers. This whole booklet is nothing but dowsing charts. All those pages are nothing but dowsing charts. And it is subtil. If you have a question, and it's SUBTIL, and it's in France. Just type in dowsing charts. That'll take you there. I can't remember everybody's website address. Lucky I remember my own. So, unless someone else has a pressing question that they just can't live without, thank you to the 41 of you who showed up. Today's a crazy day. And I did go out last Friday and stand with see if I have a picture of it. No, don't have it. Oh, that's for tomorrow. That's okay. I'll show it to you. This is a taste of tomorrow. This is a little house that the Mexican government built between Cancun and the airport you land at to get to Cancun. When they built a new highway, they went through what's called Fairy Circle Land. And if you're Celtic, you'd call it Fairy Circle Land. They call them Aluxes, Alluxes, and it pissed the Aluxes off because it was their land. Now, guys, I want you to know 3 times that bridge that's over that little house collapsed. I mean, it was built to by the time they built it the 3rd time, there was no doubt. The Mexican government went to the native healers and went to the indigenous people, said, what do we do? And they said, you need to build the Aluxes a house. So they built them this house. And this house is there. You can see it. You can see it's lit up at night. It's under a highway. There's this highway sign up in the corner. And the second they built that bridge has been there like 7 years now. They take Aluxes very seriously. The cartel won't mess with it. No, the cartel's not crazy. They understand. They don't mess with native knowledge. Okay. Okay, I'm going to pull one card quickly for Sarah. And then we're going to go. My presentation is slightly shorter than I thought because I didn't have all my cameras working. Oh, yes. Thank you. While I'm getting out the cards, my tarot class still has opening, and the lady who reminded me is one of the people who signed up. I have to have a certain number of people in the class, or I've tried running really small classes. They just don't work. People either get bored with each other or not enough people show up. You don't get enough crosstalk. You don't get enough information. So please, please, please. And this is for Sharon Broyle. Right? Tarot class starting for 6 weeks. Go to www.crystaldirectionswithans.com and go into the shop, and it's all described there, and it says to be decided. 6 weeks of training, and then 4 weeks of workshops afterwards, where I'm going to invite in other readers I have trained to come be part of the group. And we got another person yesterday, so we're getting better. Okay, for Sarah, your guides. You're feeling sideways. Your guides pulled the card grounding, And I love this card. And it's hematite. And hematite comes, the best hematite comes out of the upper Midwest. So actually, it's all over the world, but the upper Midwest has pieces that look like this. You need a purifying cleanse. Cleanse your blood, and it assists you in healing blood disorders. I don't know if you've been fighting something. You need to get some nasty germ out of your blood. Grounds and connects you to the center of the earth, enhancing your manifestation skills. This will encourage you to gentle healing after shock or trauma. And Sarah, sometimes shock and trauma doesn't have to be ugly stuff. Sometimes things are going so well for us, we're just not um, we're not ready for it, and we think, oh my God, it can't keep happening, and we start to put up blockages, and our body reacts to that. And I took the tarot class, Nancy Cast. Can't recommend it highly enough. We know what we're doing, and we do know what we're doing. And if you have a friend who's always said, oh, I have a deck here, but I've never known what to do with it, I can guarantee you that within 3 weeks, we will have them being able to read readings. I'm not saying they're going to be labeled let go of the books they're using. And thank you to everyone who showed up, and thank all of you for shining and sharing, and keep safe. Blessings always. We will make it through today, and I will get my camera fixed. Goodbye.